Okay, please go ahead.
Om 清大德僧听，为此法会集一切众生，请转妙法轮，教导我们如何了生脱死，离苦得乐，速证无生。Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma will to teach us how to live suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death, and quickly realize numbers.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Namo sadanto suchedoye alahadi sammya samputoshe.
Namo sadanto suchedoye alahadi sammya samputoshe.
无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered even in billions of eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Venerable Master, Dharma friends, Shifu Shangren, Gowei Shishong, Amitofo. Good afternoon, everybody. Good evening and good morning if you're listening in China or Asia. My name is Heng Shi. Today is Sunday, the 27th of October, and we're into Scorpio now. And I'd like to invite you to join our Avatamsaka Sutra explanation session today. We're going to be looking at Sudana's visit to the Bhikshu Hai Yun, and I've got a lot of stories to share because I've just returned from 2 weeks in China. In fact, about an hour ago. Just got off the airplane 2 hours ago, and happy to give you an insight or two into things that impressed me in the last 2 weeks from returning to the heartland of the Mahayana tradition. So we'll get started. Furthermore, we would like to acknowledge country, say that the Kombumerri people of the Ugambe language group here in Queensland are the traditional storytellers and custodians of the land where the monastery is located. Pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and to all First Nations people whose sovereignty was never given away. 我们承认的于冈北语族的孔布玛丽人是我们这个道场所在地的传统叙事者和守护人。我们向过去、现在和未来的长者们致敬，并且向所有从来没有放弃主权的第一民族的原住民，我们致敬。Okay. The bell sound wide resounds throughout 100 million worlds. The Buddha's law is heard and spread all throughout the triple world. The wondrous sounds that everywhere fill the Dharma realm with peace. May those who hear it gain the strength to follow in faith the Buddha's path. 众生传3000界内，佛法扬万亿国中，共训其法界和平。Good indeed. All righty. Look what you got on your screen. Can everybody see this? This is our last day at Yunjushan Zhenru Si, Cloud-Dwelling Mountains True Suchness Monastery in Jiangxi, China. And in the middle is the abbot, Master Chunwan, and on the front row are his monks and 4 of our American monks, actually 3 American monks, 1 from Mongolia, Master Guoji, and this was where we spent a couple days looking at the brand new Guoji Chanzong Zhongxin, the new International Chan Meditation Center being built by Master Chunwan. And wow, is it huge. He's got plans for 1,000 meditators to sit together at the same time. So we had an incredible couple days at Yunjushan, talking with the younger monks and taking part in welcoming a new Buddha image for the Chan Center. So Master Chunwan's plans are coming together very quickly. So that's he's the rate of building things in China is astonishing. How quickly magnificent structures can come into being. Just in a number of months, you can build something like what you're looking at. So, and it's quality, good stuff. All right. So today I will both explain the sutra, but also share some stories about the 6th World Buddhist Forum that we participated in, and also 3 visits to Tiantaishan, Guoqing Si, and the affiliated monasteries of Tiantaishan. This is where we have deep friendships cultivated over decades with Master Yunguan and his monks, especially up at Wan Nian, 10,000-year temple, where the Buddhist Studies Academy is located. The young monks there. So we traveled around, got some photos. Further, we also went to, as you see, Yunjushan Cloud-Dwelling Monastery, Zhenru Si, where Master Empty Cloud spent the last years of his life, his 120-year long life. Then we went to Tiantaishan and paid our respects to the monastery where Master Changguan, Qingliang Guoshi, wrote his commentary to the Avatamsaka Sutra that we depend on for our translations, the Huayan Suchao. So, magnificent way for Buddhists to spend time in China touring around to these ancient monasteries that are so important to our understanding of the Dharma. Okay. Now, we at one point said we were going to open up our Zoom call for the Saturday lectures so that folks could log on to the Zoom. Currently, our Zoom is closed, and listeners who are listening in Chinese have a separate Zoom channel, and those who are, most folks are watching on YouTube. Probably we'll work this out if it all goes well. Maybe by next week, we'll have folks able to join here on Zoom the way we do for our 10 Transferences chapter lecture and the Empty Cloud picture biography. So that's, we'll work on that. Yeah, that's coming up. Alrighty, here we go. All right, let's see here. Okay. Excellent. People remember the story. While I was out on the road, those of you who came to listen to the Avatamsaka lecture heard 2 talks that I gave while in Singapore. Hope you enjoyed those. When I go to the Singapore Buddhist Union and the Buddhist Lodge, there's lots of good humor. These are old friends and people who truly love the Dharma and people who cultivate. And somehow when you follow your affinities to the larger Dharma family, there are people who sort of get your humor. They like your jokes, and that's the case in Singapore. So the study of the Dharma can be quite joyful. Yeah. Alrighty. The story goes that Sudana, our pilgrim, has bowed in to the ocean side, and a monk whose name is Haiyun, Ocean Cloud, talked about the ocean, how he contemplates it for 12 years. And then a lotus flower, a giant lotus, emerged from the water. And all kinds of living beings, devas, the Tianlong Babu, the gods and the dragons come and make offerings to the lotus flower. And that's what you do in the Avatamsaka Sutra. And then a Buddha appears on top of the lotus. And that is our symbol for the Theravada Buddhism. If you go to Wikipedia, Wikipedia has symbols for the various religions, and then it describes them in a paragraph or in an article. For the whole of Buddhism, largely based on anything that starts with the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, etc., has a Dharma wheel, Fa Lun, 8 spokes, and that's a universally recognized Buddhist symbol. When you get to the Mahayana, to our tradition, you have instead, Dharma wheel works for us, but it's a lotus flower. And Buddhas, when they are depicted, Buddhas appear sitting on lotuses. How interesting to have that be our icon. So it's purity, for sure. It's also beauty. There's many, many interpretations of the lotus, how when it's drawn, some of the petals are pointing down, some of the petals are pointing up. And the fundamental thing with the lotus is that its roots can dig down deep wherever there's water. It could be an irrigation ditch. It could be a runoff ditch by the side of the highway. It can be a pristine, beautiful lotus pond. But the roots are down in the mud, and they grow from like a rhizome, kind of like a potato, like a rutabaga, if you know. And then up comes the stem of the lotus. Up high, there sits this magnificent, pure lotus flower. The bloom of the flower is perfection and unstained. No matter how polluted the water in the gutter or the canal is, the lotus that rises out of it is just perfect. Likewise, from all of the confusion of living beings' minds, my false thinking, the bodhisattva resolve, the wish to cultivate the bodhisattva path, can emerge from that very same mind. So the symbol is that we all each have the Buddha nature, and no matter how we've misused our chance to cultivate the way, how much we've been immersed in our drunk state and our dream, all the same, Buddhahood is our destination from the very same mind. That's the lotus. So the lotus and the Buddha and Master Haiyun is saying, these are the qualities. Oh my goodness. And he was, sum it all up, 不可思议, inconceivable. The mind can't contain the majesty of the Buddha's state. Okay, so far so good. Now, we've only had 3 teachers. We've had Manjushri, who started things out. We've had the monk De Yun, Clouds of Virtue, who came next. And now we've got Ocean Cloud, Haiyun. And even so, there has been a pattern established already. And the pattern goes like this. The teacher, let's see, the first thing that happens is Sudana comes and says, hi, I'm interested in hearing about the Bodhisattva path. I've been told that you're a really good teacher. Would you kindly instruct me? That's the first step. Qingfa, a request. Second step is the teacher responds by saying, okay, I know you're here. Have you made the Bodhi resolve? Have you ever done that? And Sudana says, I have. Indeed, I have. And the advisor says, okay, that's good. We're in business. I accept the new teacher-student relationship. Then he talks about himself, what he's up to, special conditions that make his teaching different. And then, after the introduction, he explains a new method. This is the real teaching. For Sudana, he says, here's what I do. And then he instructs him. And he maybe tells some stories around this particular practice that he's got. Each teacher does that. And the pattern is set in already. This is a perfect example of that pattern. Then, maybe he praises the results of the pattern. He talks about what's good about this cultivation. Then, interestingly enough, the last thing these teachers do is they humble themselves and praise the next teacher down the road. That's an important part of this. The flavor of the chapter is the teachers 53 of them in sequence talk about how wonderful the results of the practice they teach, but then say, however, down the road, I know someone else who you should go ask your questions to. That's a real bodhisattva. I don't know. My state can't compare to theirs. So you go run along now and ask them. That's kind of the way it goes. And that is that humility and support, joyful support, 随喜, of other cultivators is such a characteristic of the Mahayana, and it's humble and virtuous and noble. Buddhist cultivators don't compete, don't fight, especially those on the Bodhisattva path. Okay, that's our pattern. Sudana then goes, I don't want to leave you, and he cries. Often he circles the teacher, bows to him, and goes south to the next teacher. So here we are. At what part of our sequence of that program are we? We've heard praises from the monk at the seaside, and now he's describing what he got from the Buddha, how he cultivates. So you want Sudana to get out his notebook and pen, or his keyboard or whatever he's using. Maybe he's going to read it into his phone. This is the teaching. This is what Sudana wants to learn and master and then incorporate and then move on down to the next one, okay? So this is the actual teaching of the Dharma method. And we'll go all the way through. 使此如来举伸右手，而摩我顶，为我言说普贤法门，开示一切如来境界，显发一切菩萨诸行，阐明一切诸佛妙法，一切法轮悉入其中，能尽一切诸佛国度，能摧一切异道邪论，能灭一切诸魔尊重，能令众生皆生欢喜，能照一切众生心行心行，能了一切众生诸根，随众生心悉令开悟。At that time, the thus come one stretched out his right hand and rubbed me on the crown of my head and spoke for me the universal I, Dharma method. It revealed the states of the thus come ones. It disclosed and explained the practices of bodhisattvas. It explained the wonderful dharmas of Buddhas. Dharma wheels entered within it. It could purify Buddha countries. It could defeat heterodox ways and wrong theories. It could destroy demons' armies. It could cause beings to feel happy. It could illuminate the workings of beings' minds. It could understand the faculties of beings. It could bring beings to awakening according to their thoughts. All righty. Now, I didn't mention that our translation, my English language explanations here are being translated into Mandarin by volunteers here in the Gold Coast. And if people would like to hear Mandarin translation, then how do we, maybe, let's see, maybe Jerry could put that link into the chat. I realize we haven't passed that on. People are kind of expected to know it. So maybe you could put that in the chat in case there is anyone. 如果有哪一位想听我所讲的英语被译功来翻译流利的普通话，如果有的话，我们有另外一个频道，那个 chat room 现在就可以 click 在那边就可以听到因为我们这里的志工志愿很发心。Also, there is a Vietnamese translation happening at the same time. And I also don't have the link to the Vietnamese, but I know that there's perhaps, I think every week there's something like 30 folks who come back week after week to listen to the Vietnamese translation, and we're extremely grateful that the Vietnamese speaking community takes the effort and the time to render my English comments into Vietnamese. How special is that? So, Haiyun Bichu says, the Buddha on the lotus stretched out his right hand, rubbed me on the crown of my head, and spoke for me the Pu Yan Faman. Okay, rubbing on the crown of the head, that one. When we looked at the 10th practice, the 10th stage, 第十行, 第十地, we went in detail over the ritual called Abhisheka in Sanskrit, Guanding. And at that time, we didn't talk very much about Moding, but Guanding we did. We went into it in detail, and it turns out that the practice of putting oil or water or sacred herbs or something prepared special on the crown of the head of someone who is about to ascend in authority or position, or someone who their status within the faith is about to change. They get oil or water or something special sprinkled on the crown of their head or poured on the crown of their head while they undergo different kinds of ritual actions. In San Francisco, I had the opportunity to take part in the consecration of Bishop John Wester, our dear friend, who is now Archbishop. Bishop John was being consecrated as the auxiliary bishop of San Francisco at the time. This was years and years ago. And very much, they put a collar around his neck so that his robes wouldn't get oily. He prostrated himself flat on the ground, and then I believe he knelt, and a cardinal at the time, I've forgotten his name, from Southern California, came and poured oil on Bishop John's head as a symbol of this person being now qualified to rise in status within the church. So I thought that was so interesting, because here, this is rubbing the crown of the head, but that was, at the time, it was like, yeah, that's what the sutras talk about. In Buddhism, there's an identical situation where someone is being predicted to a different status, Buddhahood, for example, or they are becoming what are called the Fa Wang Wei, the king of the Dharma, and the symbol of it is anointing the crown of the head with some sort of special substance. Often it's oil scented and perfumed, or water just to be symbolic. But it's definitely, I don't want to say identical, because there are contemplations that go with it, and there's structure to the ceremony. But there it is. When people get promoted, when they're changing their job within the religious community, this anointing of the crown, abhisheka, is the sign. Now, when it comes to rubbing the crown of the head, Master Hua would always say this is a sign of affection from the teacher to the student, and it indicates that the student is changing status somehow. So, Bhikshu Haiyun is having that experience. The Buddha's rubbing the crown of his head from the lotus. And second part is 为我演说普贤法门, spoke for me a method called Universal I. Puyan Pusa is Weito. I don't think this is connected to Weito. Namo Puyan Pusa Mohasa. This is, I think it's just a coincidence that the name of the method and Weito, the Deva of the gods, the Deva of the Deva general, I think they're not related. But it's a technique of cultivation. This is, the Buddha was saying, I'm going to share with you how to cultivate. This method is called Puyan Faman, the Dharma method of the universal I, or universal vision also. It doesn't have to be a noun, it can be a verb. Universal seeing. What did it do? This method, look at the verbs, reveals, disclosed, explains, purifies, defeats, destroys, makes happy, illuminates, understands, and brings to awakening. This is what the method does. Okay, how cool is that? Everybody familiar with the Dharma door, Faman, Dharma method? What it means is it's a way of behaving, putting your body, your mouth, and your mind into this form, words, actions, and thoughts that shape our basic substance, the basic stuff of our shen, xin, xing, ming, body, mind, nature, and life. And you know how molds are used to mold jello or salad molds, cookie cutters, mold cookie dough. The Dharma works that way to give our bodies, minds, natures, and life a shape. It's a Dharma shape, shape of a Buddha, a Bodhisattva, a sage. That's what Dharma doors, Dharma methods do. In this case, the Buddha is being really specific. What does it do? It shows you the Buddha state. I don't mind if I can see the Buddha's state. So inspiring. It opens and explains, disclose and explain what bodhisattvas are really doing as they teach us how they cultivate. Then it explains the Dharma of Buddhas, Dharmas of Buddhas. So what is unique and special about a Buddha's state that's different from a bodhisattva? Well, you're asking in the right place, because this method, the Universal I Dharma method, will tell us. What else? Dharma wheels entered within it. 一切法轮悉入其中. Okay. I would guess to have a Dharma wheel enter into a Dharma door, what it means is, I think this is fairly esoteric. That is to say, in the body of cultivators, it's kind of a yoga kind of awareness. Sometimes wheels seem to develop and turn. And the thing about their turning is once they start to go, they don't stop. It just keeps on turning. And as you cultivate according to this method, where the Dharma wheel appears somewhere in your body, it seems to go on automatic pilot. So Dharma wheels enter within it. Wheels turn, think turbines, think bike wheels. They can turn on their own once they get started. Furthermore, this method purified Buddha countries. 能净一切诸佛国度. So what does it mean to purify a country, a Buddha country? My understanding of that verb, to purify, he's talking about getting it right, avoiding not enough and avoiding too much. So when you're creating, in the process of creation, which is what bodhisattvas do when they dedicate merit to a Buddha land, 愿以此功德庄严佛净土, that one. To 庄严means to create, to build, make it magnificent. When they do that, it's a multi-step process, and it's based on heart and intent. And so if the bodhisattva is able to, what do you say? If things are going smoothly, not too many obstacles, then the bodhisattva dedicates to a Buddha land. And yet, to really refine it and to make it come alive, you have to purify. You have to edit it. Because this is very much like growing crops on the mine ground. You need to keep at it. You need to have skill. And this is what it means to purify a country. It means there are different things that you do as you grow tomatoes. You have to get the land ready in your garden plot. You have to add amendments to it to enrich the soil. You have to tap down stakes because tomatoes climb. Then as the tomatoes climb up, you have to tie them onto the stake. And then you have to thin them back. So instead of a lot of little ones, you've got several ripe, delicious ones, big ones. So growing of tomatoes takes multiple steps. The purifying of Buddha countries takes multiple steps. And purify here means that the bodhisattva is tending, he's nurturing the Pure Land that he has designed and is now building. Okay, next. 灭一切诸佛均众, defeating heterodox ways and wrong theories. Interesting that the translator didn't use the word demon. Oh, wait. I'm in the wrong one. Yes, sorry. I'm ahead of myself. 萃易道写论, able to destroy heterodox, 议论, other ways of seeing reality and wrong theories. When the Buddha was teaching in India, if you look at his personal story as a prince, he went out into the woods to learn what was available so he could respond to the first question he asked, which was, can birth and death end? He was shocked to see old age, sickness, and death. And when the cultivator, the fourth messenger, appeared, the Buddha had a method. And all of the different yogis and swamis that he had met in the woods, each teaching their own method, the Buddha tried all of them and rejected them as being non-ultimate. Finally, the most important rejection that he did was starving himself. That method, you can't force an end to desire. You have to pull away the fuel and then understand deeply, organically, how the body needs to sustain itself, and that the work of cultivation is primarily in the mind. So that was the big discovery. And with that in mind, that you can't beat yourself into ending desire, you can't force yourself into ending desire, you have to kan po fang xia, see through it and put it down and just not want it anymore, because you so deeply understand it's the harm that running outside does and the benefits that are there when you can use that energy in teaching others. So that's proper Dharma. And when the Buddha was out in the bush, in the mountains, he ran into all the different heterodox, the xie-lun, the wrong views that lead outside of the nature into the world. So, okay, the next one. He's mie ichie jumo jun zhong. He could destroy the demons' armies. This one, depending on your preferences, some people are delighted to discover that the Mahayana really does talk about demons. From the founding story, from Shakyamuni running into Mara, the destroyer, and how the Buddha outwitted the demon kings and went on to Buddhahood. So other people hear that Buddhists talk this way and say, wow, that's just, I thought I left that behind when I left the Catholic Church, and I don't want to have to deal with demons anymore. That's a typical response to people who have left the church. So there's no single unified theory of demons, but the one that makes sense to me is that our world is based on dualities. So if there's good, there's also evil. And Master Hua would say that wherever the proper Dharma exists in the world, the real way to cultivate the mind ground, that's where the demons appear to oppose it, because these are theories that actually work in principle. And if you cultivate in a world where there's only goodness, and you ignore or deny the existence of evil, you're not paying attention. So here we are, demons' armies. And as I was, studying for my PhD at the seminary, the talk of demons didn't always connect. People were looking for context for the Buddhist view of demons. And what makes it a distinctly Buddhist view is that demon or sage all comes from the mind. Can be found in the planting of a single thought of self and desire, and the result can be full-fledged demons. Also, the beauty of the Mahayana view of demons is that demons get saved in the end. The Buddha's own cousin, Devadatta, was so bent on destroying his cousin, the Buddha, that he tried multiple times to spoil the Buddha's reputation for purity. He released an elephant in rut, an elephant that was out of its mind with lust, and came chasing down a narrow street, and the Buddha was able to turn the energy, negative energy of the elephant into positive energy. So Devadatta tried multiple ways to harm his cousin, and the Buddha could not prevent Devadatta from falling into the hells, but he did say, I will cross him over in the future. He will become a Buddha. The gates to hell are revolving doors. You can come back. Devadatta, for trying to kill the Buddha, shed the Buddha's blood, paid a heavy price, but he returned, and his prediction to Buddhahood is already been issued. So I like that idea, that the Buddha is mostly just describing these different states without judgment. Once the demons are defeated, living beings feel happy and delight. This Dharma door lets beings feel happy. Furthermore, it's psychologically very sound, and it allows us to illuminate the workings of the mind. Boy, oh boy. Master Hua described the ordinary human mind as a lot like a bowl of stew. That is to say, here's a potato, here's a carrot floating around in the broth, here's some cabbage, here's some tofu, and it's all mixed up together. Our minds are like that, and our karma is like that. So the Buddha has already figured out the truths of the mind, and he's not confused by it, but he's also not attached to it either. So it could understand the faculties of beings, this lotus flower. The universal I, Dharma method, understands whether living beings are chipper or depressed, whether they're bright or maybe they're dull, whether they're courageous or maybe they're cowardly. And without judgment, he responds to each and every living being. And according to the faculties that they work with this time in their body, he teaches them something that they can appreciate and draw near. And then the last one I really like says, 水中生心，悉令开悟. It accords with the thoughts of beings so that they can all wake up. Pointing to thoughts in living beings' minds as the important place. That's where the action happens. That's where the crossing over happens, is thoughts in the mind. And when the Bodhisattva is able to see, apprehend, and respond to thoughts that living beings have, it's you see the joy of the Bodhisattva path. According to their thoughts, that's where it is. Medicine master, thus come one. Namo, Namo. Medicine master, thus come one. Namo, Namo. He dispels calamities and lengthens life. Namo, Namo. He dispels calamity, lengthens life. Namo, Namo. Medicine master, thus come one. Namo, Namo. Medicine master, thus come one. Namo, Namo. Buddha of lapis lazuli light. Namo, Namo. Buddha of lapis lazuli light. Namo, Namo. One more time. Medicine master, thus come one. Namo, Namo. Medicine master, thus come one. Namo, Namo. Get tired of hearing my voice droning on. A little bit of right brain activity. 我从于彼如来之所闻思法门，受持读诵，意念观察。From the abode of that thus come one, I heard that Dharma method. I received, upheld, read, and recited it. I mindfully recalled and pondered it. Okay. So, our bhikshu is giving Sudana what he asked for. He asked for instructions in how does a bodhisattva walk the bodhisattva path? How does he cultivate bodhisattva practices? He's finding out. Here's a distinct, detailed, clear answer. He says, this is, when I was in your place, as a student of the Dharma, this is what I got from a Buddha who arose from the ocean on a lotus flower. So the sutra, of course, is passing it on to us now. How cool is that? Furthermore, 假使有人以大海量墨，须弥具笔，书写于此普眼法门，以品种一门，一门中一法，一法中一义，一义中一句，不得少分，少分，何况能尽。From the abode of that thus come one, I heard that Dharma method. I received, upheld, read, and recited it. I mindfully recalled and pondered it. If someone used as much ink as there is water in the ocean, and a stack of pens as tall as Mount Sumeru, to write out this universal I, Dharma method, he could not express a mere fraction of a single method within a single chapter, or a single Dharma within a single method, or a single meaning within a single Dharma, or a single phrase within a single meaning. How much the less could he thoroughly complete it? So this is, it's an Avatamsaka teaching, so we get these extremes, big numbers. In this case, Hayun Bhikkhu is saying, this method is pretty much endless. It just keeps rolling along. How big is it? And then he gives these analogies. So, here I am receiving, upholding, reading, and reciting this method. So there's text involved in this method. And he says, suppose Not saying this is the case. This is a supposition. It's an analogy. He's giving an example. If somebody took an ocean of water and made it into ink, and then took pens stacked up as high as wonderfully tall mountain to write with the ink that you've got an ocean-wide amount of, you would still only be touching the surface of this method. It's a deep, powerful, expansive, infinite method of practice, he's saying. That's the point here. So you'd never finish because it's just too big. How much the less could you thoroughly complete that Dharma? Okay. There we are. Go. Now, the Chinese Buddhist Association hosted a forum, a meeting called the Sixth World Buddhist Forum. Representatives from 72 countries came to Ningbo, to a place called Xuedosi. There were over 800 monks and nuns taking part. And we heard an astonishing number. They said there were 20,000 volunteers, all in all, counting all. Drivers, printers, IT people, hospitality workers, bodyguard, security guards. 20,000 people had been working for 6 months to create the forum. And my goodness, the Buddhist forum was splendid, truly inspiring in scope, and paid for by the government. So the government's support of Buddhism is concrete. So many monks, so many good friends appearing. You see them in the hallway. You sit on a panel with them. You wind up sitting beside them at a dinner. Wonderful, warm relationships that have been cultivated over decades now. My role, I'm the Zhanglao. Not the only one, but I am one of the oldest in terms of precept years. Bante Zhao Chu from Los Angeles is, I think, 6 years older than I am in precept years. But this is my 5th Buddhist forum, so coming back to China. And it's truly wonderful to get to see all of these deep friends with whom we have walked many miles, in fact. I was given a lot of work to do. Let's see here. I gave an opening speech, one of the 12 out of 800, and I appeared on a television panel, a debate about Buddhism and AI. So I used the cutting edge AI information that I've been getting from New York Times and podcasts that I listen to. I shared the platform with Dharma Master Minghai, my old Dharma friend from Bailin Si and the Buddhist Studies Academy. He graduated from the philosophy department at Beijing University. He's really well qualified, very eloquent, learned discourse, and also very compassionate. Another professor was Professor Li from Hong Kong, who is chancellor of a technology university, an elderly, distinguished professor, and our chairperson, the host of the dialogue on TV, was a man named Wang Luxiang. And Mr. Wang is a famous presenter, facilitator, host. He is also a graduate of the philosophy department of Beijing University, student of the elder Lou Yulia professor. And Mr. Wang kept our conversation rolling. 90 minutes of talk about AI and ethics, and it will be cut down to 27 minutes, probably half hour with commercials, and shown on YouTube and television all over China, Hong Kong, Taiwan. So I will let people know when that emerges, and we can, it's all in Chinese, that's the challenging part. So, but if anybody can handle Chinese and is interested in technology and what is at stake as we move ever more quickly into the world of artificial intelligence, generative AI, I'll let you know so you can listen in and see what you think. I also gave a couple speeches at the forum and did the closing with Dharma Master Zongxing, which was super rewarding. And then the forum ended, and we traveled around. We saw places in Zhejiang province we'd never seen before, said goodbye to all of our friends, and then we went out on our own to Zhenru Monastery, Zhenru Si, to see, I'm sorry, I said it wrong. This is Guoqing Si, Tiantaishan, where that is the home of these characters, Han Shan, Shide, and Feng Gan. This is Han Shan, the mad monk, the poet from the Tang Dynasty, Shide, his enabler in the monastery, and Feng Gan, who was the abbot of Guoqing Si. Guoqing Si has been a Buddhist hotspot for 1,600 years there in Zhejiang. The Tiantai teachings, Tiantai Jiaguan, came from here. This is where Master Zhizhe spoke the Dharma, sitting on this rock out in the mountains of Zhejiang province. Quite wonderful to be out there. This is the kind of scenery that you have at Tiantaishan. This is a place called Shiliangqiao, Stone Bridge. Great story behind it. This is a temple where Master Chuanyin stayed for 3 years, and Master Yunguan stayed there to support him. So just magnificent places. And then we have Zhenru Si here. And then 3 days ago, we had a chance to go out to Wutaishan, 5 platforms, 5 peaks monastery. And in Wutaishan, I was particularly interested in finding Da Xiantong Si, Xiantong Monastery, because that is where Master Chengguan wrote the Avatamsaka exegesis, the Huayan Suqiao, which is what we study. Here it is. This is Wan Liang Dian, Wu Liang Dian, Limitless Hall, this is not the building that Master Chengguan lived in, but it's the site where that building was set. So it's got a new face of it, but that's the place. So Wutaishan is sacred space, Chinese Buddhist sacred space. Just amazing, the energy that is there. And there was a Chan session taking place when we arrived. 200 some meditators from all over China, really working hard at the Chan meditation. So this is Wutaishan. Magnificent place to be. And then the last day, we had a chance to say hello to our dear friends in the Buddhist publishing, the religious publishing session of the branch of religion. And these are people who have published Master Hua's books in China in simplified characters, and their reach goes all around the country. Instead of a regional press, which only can distribute locally, the Zongjiaoju's 宗教文化出版社 has sent Master Hua's books all over China. So we got to say hello to Mr. Han Sung and to Miss Guo Wei and our old friends who we've known for a couple of decades now, as long as they've been publishing Master Hua's books. So that was very joyful, a terrific trip to China, and I'd love to tell some more stories. Jin Chuan and Jin Wei Shi were both there and had their own particular take on what was going on. They had their own experiences talking to young monks and talking to the elders, and I'm looking forward to hearing their input on this experience that we had in China. So, alrighty. I'm going to stop here today. This is going to be a somewhat abbreviated lecture today. I'm only 2 hours off the airplane and kind of feeling that maybe less is more in this case. So I want to appreciate kind hearts and hands that allow this lecture to go further in Chinese and Vietnamese and also out on the internet. And starting from today, the lectures series should be back in proper order. The 10 transferences tomorrow night and the Master Empty Cloud picture bio on Saturdays or Fridays in California. All right? So can we dedicate merit? And today's lecture will be a little briefer than usual, but I think it's good to stick to the middle way here. All right, here we go. May every living being our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Followed by bows to the Buddha and bows to our teacher. Please join me. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. That's all for us for today. We'll see you all next week. Amitofo. Bye, everybody. Take care.